Welcome, everybody, to Mom Street USA. My name is Jackie, aka Wishes Mama, and today's episode we are going to be focusing on all things PhotoPass, Memory Maker, and character meet and greets. Today is a solo episode from Mom Street USA, so you will just be hearing from me today. So we're going to jump on in to talk about all things PhotoPass, Memory Maker, and character meet and greets in this episode. This was a request from our Mom Street USA community to kind of talk about different options. Is it worth it? Is it not? And just kind of different tips and tricks for handling character meet and greets in the park. So hopefully I can give you some really good information for that in this episode that will help you feel more prepared for a future trip to any of the parks. That's the goal for today. So let's hop right in and talk about PhotoPass. So what in the world is PhotoPass? PhotoPass is basically the photography service that is provided by Disney photographers and attractions also across Disney property. So basically, PhotoPass is Disney terminology for photographers. So across Disney property, there are tons of different photo options. You will find standstill photographers. You will find different photo opportunities. Several of the attractions have photos that come with them as well as just part of the ride experience. So PhotoPass is all of that encompassed into one terminology. At Walt Disney World, across the 4 parks, there are 15 different attraction photos that you can find across all 4 of the parks. At Disneyland, there are significantly less. There are only 4 attraction photos across the 2 parks there, but there are attraction photos there as well. As far as other photos that are included under the kind of PhotoPass umbrella, you've got over 100 different magic shot options. And we'll talk about kind of what that is here in a little bit. But basically, just know that those magic shots are kind of edited or altered photos that cast members can add characters or different filters or effects to your photos as part of the PhotoPass offerings that they have in the parks. Now, as far as character photos, those are also included under that PhotoPass umbrella. There are over 40 character meet and greets across Disney World and Disneyland. So those are the 2 parks we're going to be highlighting today. This more so applies to Disney World than Disneyland. Now, don't get me wrong, Disneyland still has photo options and still has characters and things like that. But is just more space, more parks, more offerings at Disney World. So most of what we're going to be talking about in this episode will be more Disney World geared, but I will give you information for Disneyland as well. Now, under the PhotoPass umbrella, there's also something called the Memory Maker. These terms can sometimes be used interchangeably, so it can get a little tricky and a little bit confusing. But basically, PhotoPass is the overall idea of these photo spots that are available in the parks. Now, Memory Maker, which is a Walt Disney World only option, Memory Maker is basically the purchase that you make in order to be able to download your photos without the watermark. So either way, whether you buy the Memory Maker or not, if you have photos taken in the parks, you will be able to view them on your app. Whether that's Disneyland or Disney World, you will be able to still view them. They will have a giant Disney watermark across them, so that way you won't be able to necessarily download them without the purchase of the Memory Maker or the PhotoPass options at Disneyland. So again, those terms are sort of used interchangeably. They are a little bit different. So let's talk about Memory Maker. Again, Memory Maker is Walt Disney World only. Memory Maker as an entity itself does not exist in Disneyland. It's not something that they utilize out there because their system works a little bit differently. And I'll talk about those systems in the price breakdown here in just a minute. But basically, the Memory Maker, again, is the purchase that you make in order to be able to download your photos without the watermark on them. This will include photos that are taken within 30 days of your selected start date. So keep that in mind whenever you are looking to purchase. You don't want to activate it too far in advance, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment, because it does only include photos that are within 30 days of that date. Now, in order to download your photos without the watermark, you do have to kind of activate your memory maker. So you can purchase it ahead of time. You just don't want to activate it until either you're in the parks or you're like on your way home and you're reviewing your photos in the app, that sort of thing, because you do only have 30 days worth of photos from the moment that you activate it. So keep that in mind depending on your dates and things like that. The other thing to keep in mind is once you activate, you will have 45 days to download your photos. So if your photos are taken on February 14th, Valentine's Day, 45 days after that, those photos will disappear from your app. Now, that being said, if you are someone who purchases Memory Maker, they send you a few email reminders. So that's always a big help to make sure that you don't miss that 45 days because I've gotten very close before to almost missing that whenever I've gone to download my pictures after my trip because it just slips my mind. I may download one or two on my phone, but the easiest way to bulk download them is also on a desktop because you can download folders at a time rather than having to download individual photos one by one, which can take a long time if you're someone who truly utilizes the PhotoPass and Memory Maker system. As far as who can share your memory maker or your PhotoPass with you. At Disney World, you can have up to 25 family members' photos on your memory maker account. So if you've got 25 or less people linked under your family and friends list on your My Disney Experience app, you can download all of their photos. Now, if you've got more than that, it's going to limit whose photos you're able to download because you can only have 25. For the majority of us and the kind of average user, you're never going to have that issue. But if you're someone who frequents the parks or goes with different combinations of large groups of people, that's something just to keep in mind. Now at Disneyland, for their PhotoPass, you can link up to 8 IDs on your PhotoPass at a time to be able to download. So remember that Disneyland does not use that family and friends option like My Disney Experience does for Disney World. So it is a little bit different over there in that with Disneyland, in order to link accounts together, you just simply link their ticket onto your Disneyland app. So you can have up to 8 app linkings happening to be able to download your PhotoPass all at the same time. So a little bit of a difference with that when it comes to Disney World versus Disneyland. And I think ultimately it makes sense, right? You've heard us talk about how much Disneyland is a locals park. It's not as big of a tourist attraction. So you have a lot of locals there that probably aren't always visiting in really large groups. Or if they are, a lot of them have annual passes. And the magic keys at Disneyland, we'll talk about here in just a moment. With some of the levels of that, your photo pass is already included, so it's not something that they necessarily have to worry about. Whereas Disney World, you have larger family groups that are attending together, so it totally makes sense that you see such a drastic difference between 25 versus 8 when it comes to how many family members you can have or friends you can have linked all at one time. As far as the deadlines and things like that go, no matter how many people you have linked, all of those same deadlines apply. So 45 days after the photos are taken is when they expire. And then you have 30 days worth of photos from the day that you activate or the day that your trip starts, or the day that your photo pass is active on your account. So same deadlines apply for all of that. The age-old question with a lot of things when it comes to spending extra money on your Disney trip is it worth it? So, let's talk about, do we think PhotoPass and Memory Maker are worth it? Cost breakdown is obviously going to be the first thing that you consider when it comes to deciding whether or not it's worth it. So, here are some numbers for you to kind of contemplate on if you are someone who has an upcoming trip or is wondering what it costs to have access to these. Disney World has a couple different options. The first option that they have is just a 1 day memory maker option, and that is $75 for the day. Now, these prices are without tax or any of that kind of stuff. This is just the base price. And that will give you just exactly what it sounds like, 1 day access to your photos. With the actual full memory maker, they have two different prices if you want more than a day, and it depends on when you buy. So you always want to buy this at least 4 days or a few more in advance from your trip because you will get a discount off of your total cost that way. So if you buy it 3 plus days in advance, it's gonna cost you $185 for your trip. And again, that is up to 30 days worth of photos for $185. With the if you decide less than 3 days in advance, you're gonna be looking at $210. So, not a huge difference, but enough of a difference to definitely make sure that you look at this ahead of time and plan accordingly, so that way you don't have to pay that extra fee, for forgetting to buy your memory maker ahead of time. So, keep those things in mind. Now, if you're someone who has an annual pass to Disney World, any level annual pass, doesn't matter which pass it is, doesn't matter if it's Florida resident or out of state, $99 plus tax for the year is what you're looking at to have all of your photos included. Now, that being said, even with an annual pass, you still have only that 30 days worth of photos that will be on your account. So, something to keep in mind with your timing and things. Again, you'll have that time to download them and all that good stuff, but you just wanna keep that in mind that, that download window does still apply even if you have an annual pass. That also being said, if you are someone that is visiting Walt Disney World and you are planning to utilize Lightning Lanes and utilizing MultiPass, if you are using Lightning Lane MultiPass, your ride photos are included with your multi-pass. So if you don't plan to take advantage of any of the other photo opportunities across the parks, character meets or, the icon pictures at the castle or the Tree of Life or things like that, then Lightning Lane, if you're planning to use Lightning Lane, that may be enough for you and you may not need to buy the Memory Maker PhotoPass option. So again, a couple different options there that you just need to see what you think is best for your particular situation and decide from there. Now at Disneyland, things are a little bit different. At Disneyland, the Lightning Lane multi-pass over there, which again, reminder, it functions as the old Genie Plus system from Disney World, so different system, but it includes all photos. So a difference there, Disney World is just ride photos. Disneyland, it includes all photos. So if you're planning to utilize Lightning Lanes on your trip to Disneyland, um, it's gonna run you around 30 to 35 per day for that per person for that Lightning Lane option, and that may be all that you need to do for your Lightning Lane in that moment. Now, if you're not gonna utilize Lightning Lanes or you're not planning to, they do have, like, a one-week pass for their PhotoPass Plus is what they call it out there, and that will run you $78. So if you've got a group that is not planning to use Lightning Lane and you've got a group that is more than, 1 or 2, and you are using Lightning Lanes even, that may be more cost effective for you to just buy the one-week pass and get all the photos that you want. So, again, just something to keep in mind, when you're looking at costs. Now, as far as Magic Keys go, which is what we call those annual pass holders out in Disneyland, Magic Keys, there are 4 different tiers for Magic Keys, and the top 2, the Inspire and the Believe tier, have the unlimited photo pass included with their Magic Key. So it's not an extra cost that they have to pay, that is included with their Magic Key. The other 2 levels, do not have it included. So, something to consider. The other thing to note is that Magic Key holders also get a 25% off at all levels, 25% off of Lightning Lane Multipass. So, if you are someone who doesn't want to buy the unlimited photo pass, but you want to have photos and you plan on using lightning lanes, then that may be all that you need to do. So, again, lots of different options depending on, first of all, which park you're going to, but also depending on your situation, what photos you anticipate taking. Are you a frequent visitor or not? Are you splitting this cost with someone that you're traveling with? Lots of different things to consider when it comes to whether or not Memory Maker and PhotoPass is worth it. So that's kind of the money aspect of it. But let's briefly just talk about kind of the nostalgia and the souvenir and the memory aspect of it. I 100% think that PhotoPass and Memory Maker is worth it. It's so nice. Now, granted, these cast members at all of these places, other than on the rides, are more than happy to use your devices to take your picture. But I think it's so nice to have someone else taking the photo. It's the best way to get everybody in your group included in your photos. It's the easiest way to get those group photos all in, with everybody. And they have so many fun magic shots, which we're going to talk about the special photo stops that they have here in just a minute. But I think there's just so many fun extra things that you can get with the Photo Pass and Memory Maker that you just can't do with your own cell phone. So I really do think it's worth it. It's worth having those photos. It's worth having some of the rides do fun little videos of the ride. I know Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Magic Kingdom is one that you get like a little video of your ride. So many fun options that they have on that Memory Maker option that I definitely think it's worth it. It is something to budget for, and it is something to consider. Like I mentioned, are you going to be splitting it with family members or friends that you're traveling with? I've got a trip upcoming with my family, my parents, and my sister. We've already talked about like, yep, we're going to buy Memory Maker. We're all just going to split the cost, which for us will be 185 total divided by 3. That is totally worth it to budget for and to spend to have those memories and to be able to just download them all after our trip and not have to worry about getting the right shot. Is there enough space on my phone? Who has what photos where? We can all have access to them and all download them straight to our devices, which I think is another benefit of that. I just think it's really definitely worth considering, and I would say it's worth budgeting for the extra cost. So, along with all of those things to consider, let's talk about kind of what are these photo spots that they do offer. And again, like I said, most of these happen at Disney World. Disneyland does have a few, but Disney World has most of these options that we're going to talk about in this section. So, where are these photo spots? They're really all around the castle. They're all around the major icons, the Tree of Life. They're all around, the Chinese Theater and the Tower of Terror. They're all around Spaceship Earth. So those places, primarily, a lot of them you'll find. Any other picturesque kind of locations. So a lot at Magic Kingdom at the like entrances to the different lands. So the Tomorrowland Bridge or over going into Adventureland, there are some. So they're really just anywhere that you see a photographer, go up and take a look at what they're taking photos of. Again, like I said, Disney World has these almost everywhere you look. You can pretty much stand somewhere in any part of the park and look around and probably find a PhotoPass cast member. Um, at Disney World, they do offer this really great option called the Capture Your Moment session. And these are the little personalized photo shoots that you can book. And again, this is at Walt Disney World only currently. They are 20-minute photo sessions that Disney kind of advertises them as they capture the fun of your special day, is like their little tagline for them. So basically, you can have up to 8 people on this Capture Your Moment session. And they are available at all 4 parks in different locations. So at Magic Kingdom, you can do them on Main Street, Fantasyland, or in Liberty Square. At Epcot, they have various locations around World Showcase. At Hollywood Studios, you can do Toy Story Land, Hollywood Boulevard, Echo Lake, and Sunset Boulevard. And then also they have another one that you can do in Galaxy's Edge. At Animal Kingdom, they have them around the Tree of Life. But this is something that you do have to book ahead of time. It is something that you do need to go either online or through your app to book. And they do have a typical cancellation policy of 24 hours before. And any guests 14 and under must be accompanied by an adult that is 18 or over. So if you want to do it with kiddos, you just got to make sure that they've got an adult with them if they are under 14. And thank you, Vinny. Yes, they do run $99 for the session. That's what I thought it was, but I couldn't find it in my notes. So thank you so much, Vinny, in our live chat here for helping with that. Do keep in mind that if you are someone who is celebrating a wedding down in Disney, that if you plan on doing any sort of wedding attire, that is not what these capture the moment sessions are for. That is a different package option. But if you're celebrating a special event, a birthday, an anniversary, a first family trip all together, and you want to kind of have those extra special photos, this is what you would want to do. Do keep in mind that they don't give you access to restaurants, shops, attractions, and characters are not a part of it. But that is something that is just a little bit of an extra kind of personalized photo area that you can do. I see this a lot with families that are celebrating like graduations. Also, again, any sort of special event that you are celebrating when you go down to Disney, these are a great option. A tip that I did see as I was kind of doing some research for these is if you've got it in the budget or you're splitting it between groups, you can attempt to book two of them back to back, and then you get like a double long 40-minute session. And then you can do two different locations during your photo shoot if you choose to. And while the photos for this are not included in the price, if you have the memory maker option or any of those that we talked about, qualifying Disney World PhotoPass benefits, you can download these as part of that. So you don't have to pay extra for them if you're already paying for Memory Maker, which is what we just talked about in the last session. So that is something to keep in mind. Another thing that comes with the Memory Maker and PhotoPass are the PhotoPass lenses. And these are basically the best way that I can describe them is they're kind of like Snapchat filters, but Disney. So they have fun little animations and filters and different things that you can use. And this is through the Disney app. So this is through your My Disney Experience app that you can access these. You won't have access to the specialized PhotoPass lenses unless you have purchased that PhotoPass package. But yeah, basically they're kind of like special fancy Snapchat filters. And you can gain access to these through your annual pass. And these are also included in if you are utilizing Lightning Lane Multipass for your photos. These are also unlocked with that. So you don't have to have the full PhotoPass Memory Maker option to be able to access these. If you're just using Lightning Lanes, you can get these as well. Some of these are only available they're like geotagged. They're only in certain locations. Others will be available the entire 45 days after your purchase, just like your other photos are. But these lenses do not show up in your like Memory Maker download options. So they're just kind of in the moment photos and videos that you can take using those fun little filters and things like that. Something else that's included in the Memory Maker is the option to do video memories. So, like I mentioned before, some of the attractions will have like little videos of your ride, or sometimes your magic shots that you're doing with your PhotoPass cast member is more of a video experience. And sometimes they just take your photos and put them in little frames and add little videos around them. Like I know there's one spot in Toy Story Land at Hollywood Studios where they take your photo and they put it they put it in a frame and they make the little green army men like parachuting down around you as like a photo video memory option. So those options are available again through My Disney Experience. You can edit some of those as well and add templates and filters to pictures as well and download those through your Memory Maker too. Another thing under the PhotoPass umbrella is this Disney PhotoPass Studio. This is something that I feel like is kind of a hidden gem, but you do have to travel to Disney Springs to gain access to it. So it is the PhotoPass Studio located at Disney Springs. And inside this studio, it basically looks like a photo like you'd find a typical photo studio. They've got choices of backdrops and they've got little props. Like I know they have like Cinderella's glass slipper on a pillow and they've got the lamp from Aladdin and they kind of rotate through what they have offering. Sometimes they do like seasonal ones or specialized ones for certain events, things like that. Um, but they're super fun and a really great way to gain some extra photos with your PhotoPass. This PhotoPass Studio is completely included with your memory maker. So you don't have to reserve a time. It's not an extra fee to go and get your photos taken there. So it is a really great option to have if you are already, especially if you're already visiting Disney Springs. They also have like virtual backdrops that you can do, like green screen style. And then they also have like viewing stations and things like that that you can do in there if you want to like go through and look at all the different options that they have as well. So a couple different magic shots that you can get if you are someone who is planning to do Memory Maker and PhotoPass. They have what they call the Tiny World magic shots. And those are in all of the parks at Animal Kingdom in Pandora, at Epcot, in Epcot at Spaceship Earth, in Hollywood Studios at Star Tours, and at Cinderella Castle. And they're basically like Zoom photos, right? So it makes it look like they have all these different effects that they put on there. And then they have like the super zoom magic shots, which will start kind of way out back and zoom all the way into where you are. They're really fun. And those are at the Tree of Life, at Animal Kingdom, Spaceship Earth and Epcot. There's a Galaxy's Edge one in Hollywood Studios, and again at Cinderella Castle at Magic Kingdom. So those are kind of specialized ones that you have to know kind of where you're looking for. That being said, you can look these things up in your app ahead of time. And if you're not sure where they are, you can always ask guest relations or you can ask another PhotoPass cast member. Those PhotoPass cast members are going to have bright green shirts on that designate that they are a PhotoPass cast member. So if you're looking for a specific style of magic shot, ask one of those cast members and they'll be able to direct you to who is doing one in the moment. They are offered pretty much during the middle part of the day. Obviously, some of these photo options are not available after dark because it's just not possible for them to get the effect, when it's dark outside. So keep that in mind. If this is something you want to do, I would make it a priority to get it done kind of in those morning hours because your wait may also be long. Some of these are very popular, so it's a good thing to kind of plan to do it earlier in the day. Plus, if you've got, before you get too sweaty and the humidity gets to everyone's hair. So just another tip that I would suggest. So other fun extra photo spots that they have. The Epcot festivals always have some sort of special themed festival photo shot that they do. Like I know Festival of the Arts has a lot of like Figment photo like extra magic photo shots. They have orange bird ones for the flower and garden. So lots of different things like that they have at Epcot, all festival specific. And different events are also going to have different photo spots as well. So a lot of the parties, so if you do like a Not So Scary or a Very Merry, they're going to have special photo opportunities there. They're also often, they have set up like facades at some of these that you can go and like go into and do a photo spot in there. Same thing for Jollywood, Oogie Boogie Bash, other Disneyland ticketed events. They all have different special photo ops that are themed to them, and they are included in your party ticket often. So, for example, when my family went to Jollywood 2 years ago, all of our photos from Jollywood were included with our ticketed price. So they were automatically on our app without any watermark on them, even before we did anything with our memory maker for that trip. So that's a nice little perk. So definitely pay attention to that if you're going to be going to one of the parties, ticketed events, things like that. Take a look at what they say about the photos, because oftentimes they do include those as like an added bonus with your ticketed event for that. Um, Another special option that you can find at some of the different rides are special photo ops by like entrances and things like that. So I talked about this at Magic Kingdom with the entrances to the different lands. But for example, the one that automatically comes to mind is the Tron one. So at the entrance to the like ramp that goes up to Tron, they have the big Tron Light Cycle Run sign. They have a bunch of PhotoPass cast members that will be there, and they've got the cool little like identity disc that you can take the photo with. So there aren't a ton of those around the parks, but there are a few. So definitely keep your eye out. Do a quick Google search on different attraction shots before your trip if there's something specific that you're looking for with that. And then the other thing to note is that while they have all these extra special fun, filters and animated magic shots and things like that, the cast members also can just take standard photos for you. So if you just want a traditional standard photo of your group on Main Street in front of the castle, they're also happy to do that. Um, but if you are getting your photo taken, let them take the traditional one and then ask the PhotoPass cast member, "Hey, do you have any magic shots that you are doing at at this location?" Chances are good they've got at least one they can offer you. Sometimes it's like pretend you're holding something and make a certain face, and then they'll put like Tinkerbell in your hands, or sometimes it's outside of Haunted Mansion, they have a hitchhiking ghost one where you can do like the little thumb thing for the hitchhiking ghost. So lots of different options, super fun. Some of them are really simple. Some of them the cast member will just ask you to make a surprised face or hold your arm up like you're going to hold a big bunch of balloons, or so many different options that they have. There's over 70 special effects that they have across all of the parks. So be sure to ask your cast member what they have to offer. And if they don't have one, that's totally fine. Then ask them, like, okay, is there someone around here that you know that does? Because sometimes certain locations have them and certain ones don't. And those cast members that work in PhotoPass are going to know exactly where to direct you if you want a specific magic shot, like I mentioned earlier. They're also so great with kids and little ones because that's who they deal with a lot, right? So just asking them their opinions on like, hey, what do you think for a pose, or what can we do to help to get them to smile? Lots of different things like that. The cast members that work PhotoPass are so great, and they're trained so well to work with all sorts of different situations. So definitely keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is if you've got, a special surprise, or you're doing, we see proposals or gender reveals or pregnancy reveals or any of that kind of stuff, ask the PhotoPass cast member to help you out with that. They are going to have a ton of ideas. They're so creative, and they have a ton of fun doing those kind of extra special moments with you. So, cluing them in or having them help you come up with a plan for that while you're, prepping to get your picture taken is a really fun way to kind of make a little bit of extra magic while you're getting your photo taken by them. Okay, so now that we have talked about all things PhotoPass and Memory Maker, one of the big things that kind of goes hand in hand with that is characters. So we're going to talk briefly here, maybe not so briefly, but we're going to talk now about characters and autographs and kind of different tips and tricks for that, because I do feel like they kind of go hand in hand, like I said. So let's talk about autographs, and then we'll talk about character meets and some of my ideas and tips for that. But a lot of people, when they go to the Disney parks, especially if they're taking their kiddos for the first or second or fourth time, doesn't matter, they like to do autographs and autograph books. So it's a really fun keepsake that you can have. It's a really fun souvenir to bring home and kind of look back through all of the different characters that you met. So super fun with that. And there are tons of options for different kind of unique things that you can use for character autographs. So, a couple things to keep in mind. You need to kind of plan ahead for that, right? You need to give yourself enough time to order something off of Amazon or, go to the store and get what you want to get. Disney does have official Disney autograph books that you can wait to buy until you get there if that's what you choose to do. They are going to be more expensive at your resort or in the parks than they are if you buy them ahead of time. So I really suggest looking ahead of time and finding one that you'd like to use if that's the way you'd like to go. Um, but there are tons of other options that you can use for different character autographs. Again, tons and tons of options. So the official autograph books obviously are a choice, but I've seen people do t-shirts, water bottles, photo mats that you can put around the outside of like a photo from your trip. You can do ears if you've got, plain ears that you can do certain fabric markers on. Different books, like I know my kiddos have a Disney like kids encyclopedia that you can do, different park maps if you wanna have them sign in the area of where their, character is located at the park. You can do photos. You can do index cards to plan to like frame later or to put in a book later. Wooden ornaments if you want to do something around Christmas time or planning to do it, decorate your Christmas tree with them. Wooden round ornaments that they can use, certain specific markers to put on. Wooden letters or signs if you have, for your first name or last name, if you want to go to a craft store and get one of the big letters for that, they can sign on that. So many options that I literally Googled it and those were like the first options that popped up. And I was just like, yep, this list looks great. But there are so many options to do. If you decide to do a photo book or one of the official Disney autograph books, you can always leave room for a printed photo with the character if you choose. So I saw a lot of people suggesting to, if you have one of those smaller books, leave one side for the photo and then the other side for the character autograph. So kind of do an every other page type of deal. If you've got one of the ones with the bigger pages, you can always ask the character, like, hey, can you sign along the bottom here? Or can you sign to this side? Or, things like that. They'll do the best they can. You can't always guarantee exactly where they're going to sign. Sometimes it depends on the character and their ability to grip a Sharpie and sign their name for you. I do suggest if you have something that's soft, like a fabric or a pillowcase or a shirt, or Stevie suggested a scarf that she's done before in our chat over here, bringing a clipboard or a hard surface for them to write on it is super helpful. So that way they have something to grip onto. I've seen people use like, what are they called? Like this, like stitching rings and put the fabric inside of there to have something a little bit to pull the fabric a little bit more to make it easier for them to write on. So lots of different options for that. Do keep in mind that if you have something that is like a shirt or a scarf or something like that, ears or a hat, they will not sign anything that you're currently wearing. So do not ask them to sign the spirit jersey that you're wearing on your visit. It has to be something that you are not currently wearing that they can then sign. They also will not sign your skin. So do not ask, Gaston to sign your muscle over here because that is not something he will do. So do keep that in mind when you are planning accordingly for your character autographs at the parks. I always suggest if you are doing autographs, the characters really like the bigger, like thicker, clickable Sharpies because it's easier for them to grasp. Because sometimes it's hard for, Goofy and Pluto to grab those little tiny Sharpies or little fancy pens. So the bigger it is, the easier for some of our character friends to grasp. So keep that in mind. And the clickable ones are really nice because then you don't have to keep track of the cap for your marker. So I suggest just running out to the store and grabbing a couple, a pack of those with those click tops because those are the easiest for the characters to use. And also keep in mind that not all characters will physically sign. Some characters have pre-made little photo pass cards that the character attendants will hand out that will have their signature on it. So, for example, when I met Jack and Sally at the Halloween party, they had a little card that just had their names on it that was already pre-signed that you just take with you, and that is your signature. The nice thing is they hand it out to everybody. So we have a couple of those from when we went to do that character meet and greet. So again, not every character signs, but if they don't sign, they're going to have some sort of a pre-made postcard style signature that you can take with you to add to your book, however that may be. But just keep that in mind if you're someone that wants certain characters, you may need to do a quick search to see whether or not they currently are signing in the parks. The other thing to keep in mind is that whatever you are having them sign, whether it's an autographed book or all those other options that we mentioned earlier, be sure that it's labeled in case it gets misplaced or gets away from you in the parks. Name, phone, address are super helpful. That way, if you end up losing it, you have to file a lost and found claim. Your information is already on there so they can ship it to you, contact you, any of that. Autograph books are hard, especially if you've bought one in the parks, to know for sure which one's yours and to be able to claim yours if they find a couple that are all the same. So be sure that you've got your information labeled on those so that way they can find their way back to you, because that would be sad if they get lost and misplaced in the parks. Another great place to get autographs without kind of the rush of an in-park meet and greet are at character meals. So, character dining is a great option for this if that's something that you want to do. Again, not every character is going to sign at character dining. Some of them, quite a few of them that I know of, do have those kind of pre-made cards that you can get. But that is a really great option if there are certain characters that you're looking for and you know that they sign at their character meal. That is a really good option to do. If you want more information about character meals, Kate and I did an episode, episode 43 of Mom Street USA back in our archives, is all about the different character meal options. So if you want to know who's available when, that is your episode to go to for that. But that is a really great option if you're someone who wants to get some autographs, but you either aren't visiting the parks or there are certain characters that aren't in the parks that are only at character meals that you want to get, that's a good option for you as well. So all of that being said about character autographs and kind of how and where to go about getting them, let's talk about a quick guide to character meet and greets. So again, we talked about how photos and characters kind of go hand in hand. There are so many characters that you can meet at the parks, and this goes for Disney World and Disneyland. So many characters. It is super helpful to talk to your kiddos, especially if this is their first time meeting characters. Kind of talk them through the process and talk through what it's like to visit a character, what it's like to have those interactions, so that way they know a little bit of what to expect. And do keep in mind that Disneyland has many more what I would call roaming characters, while Disney World tends to have more specific meeting spots and times for almost all of their characters. So, Disneyland, you're going to just run into characters and run across characters, especially back in Fantasyland when you're there. Pretty much all day long, you're going to see them wandering around. Um, not all of them, all of the time at Disneyland, are going to stop and take designated photos and sign autograph books, but like a quick selfie with them is usually what you're going to get in those types of situations. That being said, Disneyland does have some character meet and greets, but not nearly as many kind of specific set in stone ones as Disney World does. Disney World, like I said, on the other hand, has specific times in their app that you're going to be able to find certain characters in certain locations. So it's a little easier to kind of hunt down the characters that you want at Disney World compared to Disneyland. But both of them have a really good amount of characters that are out and about. Two different kinds of characters as far as what the Disney terminology is fur characters versus face characters. So your face characters are going to be people like the princesses, Peter Pan, Mary Poppins, Alice, those types of characters. Whereas your fur characters are going to be like your Fab Five. So Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Pluto, Goofy, Olaf, all of those types of characters are going to be what we consider fur characters, even if they're not necessarily furry by nature. You can kind of understand the difference between those two. A big thing when it comes to character meet and greets and prepping your kids is talking to them about which characters they're going to come across that are going to have a conversation with them, and which characters are just going to kind of live in that pantomime world with them, and why that is. You may have a kiddo that doesn't question it at all. You may have a kiddo that wants to know why Mickey talks on the castle stage, but doesn't talk in his meet and greet. Again, you know your kids best. You know whether or not you're going to need to prep for this. But this is something that I have had to think about with my kiddos because I have my oldest is very inquisitive and has lots of why questions. So something just to consider. Um, by no means do I suggest that you fabricate big, elaborate fibs to your children, but I do suggest maybe having kind of a magical reason why in the back of your head, just in case you need to pull it out, in case you run into that issue, and your kiddo is not the age where you're ready for that magic to go away yet. So a couple options that I found that I liked online that you could suggest or that you could use and I could suggest to you to use for your kiddos is that these characters, if you're meeting primarily fur characters, those are the ones that are typically not going to speak. So when they don't speak, you can say, well, it makes it fair for all language speakers because they may not know how to speak every language. Or characters have to rest their voice for the shows. That is a really good one to use, and I feel like that's a well used one because they need to rest their voices for their stage shows. Um, One that I saw online was that Mickey and Minnie are playing the quiet game, and they're trying to see who can last the longest. So that's kind of a fun one that you can use. Um, you can also make it kind of a teachable moment with your kiddos. How can we communicate to them without words? Don't you don't have to focus on why they can't talk, but just like, okay, well, they can't. We know they can't. That's fact. So how can we communicate with them, and what can we do to show them things? We can give them the hearts. We can wave. We can blow kisses. All sorts of different things that you can do with that. Um, and just a couple kind of side note things to make sure that you're also prepping your kids on is the age old, just be kind and respectful of the character's personal space and don't attempt to make them break character. Let them do their job, let them be in the magic that they need to be in, and be respectful of their personal space and of their boundaries. So just something to keep in mind. Prepping your kids about waiting your turn to see the characters, similar to waiting in attraction lines. Chances are good you've probably already prepped your kids to know that they have to wait in line. It can also be really hard because if you're next in line and you see the group in front of you interacting with Mickey and you're so excited and you're ready to go, you just gotta take a deep breath and wait your turn. And just another kind of, again, side note, uh, do your best to prep your kids and to kind of coach your kids into always approaching characters from the front to make sure that they are seen. Um, some of these character friends have limited visibility. So if you have a kiddo that comes to them from the side or kind of around the back here, they may not see them, and that could be an unsafe situation for both the kiddo and the character. So reminding them to come around the front so that way the character can see them and greet them properly is always a good idea. And that goes for face characters, fur characters, any of the above with that. A really great option if you are someone, like I mentioned, that is looking to plan out your characters, using the My Disney Experience app or the Disneyland app are great options to find locations of characters. Disneyland, like I said, you're going to find more of those roaming characters. but they should still give you kind of a general vicinity where you can find those specific characters. And again, they're going to exist in the area that their movie exists in, right? So you're going to find someone like Alice or Mary Poppins or Peter Pan generally in the Fantasyland area, whereas you're going to find, the Country Bears or Jack Sparrow over in Frontierland and then Adventureland. So just keep that in mind as well. Um, but the My Disney Experience app is going to give you specific locations for Disney World and hours that they're going to meet as well. They have different show times throughout the day because our character friends do need a break in between. And do be aware that if you're looking ahead of time on the app and it's after hours or after that character has stopped meeting for the day, the app does not always show those characters in that moment. So in that situation, I typically use a combination of the app and the website to find the character meets that are at each park because it's a little bit more reliable if you're using the website as well. Because most characters at Disney World are done meeting by like 6 o'clock. So if I'm looking one evening at what characters are at Magic Kingdom, it may appear that there are like none there because they've all ended their sets for the day. So do keep that in mind as you're doing your research ahead of time. That is something that can get a little bit tricky when it comes to finding those character location and hours for your Disney World trip. Just a side note, unfortunately and sadly, the character experiences were taken off of Lightning Lane experiences with the most recent update for Disney World. So standby is the only option for those character experiences in the parks. So even like the Princess Fairy Tale Hall and meeting Mickey at Town Square Theater and some of the other ones in the other parks that used to be on the old system, they are no longer on the new system, unfortunately. So be prepared for standby. Arrive early to their time that's listed on the app so that way you can avoid being turned away for a break time because they will cut those lines because those characters need their breaks, especially when it's very, very hot in Florida. So do keep that in mind that you want to make sure that you're there early. And the earlier in the day, the better for waiting in lines because a lot of those lines are not, they're not an attraction queue that has cover or is inside for most of them. So keep the weather in mind as well when you're looking at waiting for character lines and their times as well. Because like I said, once it starts to get dark into the evening, a lot of those characters end their sets well before then. A couple tips that I have for anyone who is maybe nervous or a little unsure when it comes to meeting characters. Again, I will say that i- i- there's no reason to be. I understand that a lot of the adults that go to the park feel maybe unsure or maybe a little uncomfortable or awkward going into character meets, but there's absolutely no reason to. But you have to live in the magic, right? Again, like I mentioned, don't try to get them to break character. You have to live in their world that they live in and interact with them in their world that they live in to have a good experience. So, as you're waiting in line, a tip that I like to do is come up with one or two questions or topics that you want to talk to them about beforehand to kind of prep yourself into that mindset. So, if you're going to meet Elsa, asking Elsa about what's going on in the forest or how Nock is doing or how Olaf is or any of those things that live and exist in Elsa's world. Um if you're going to meet Mickey, there's so many different things you can talk to Mickey about. You can even tell them about how your day is going, or you can tell them about, something that you saw throughout the day. So just kind of prep those ahead of time. And again, refer to something in their storyline. So chances are if you're going to meet a character, you have seen their movie, watched their show, whatever it may be for that particular character. So refer to something in their storyline. If I'm going to walk into Tomorrowland and go meet Stitch, first of all, I'm just gonna tell him how much I love him because that's what I typically do when I fangirl over my meet and greets with Stitch because he's one of my absolutely favorite characters. But I'm gonna ask him about how Angel's doing, or I'm gonna ask him what he's been doing with Lilo, or Those types of questions. And if all else fails, just ask to take a picture. It doesn't need to be this big elaborate meet and greet that you have. You don't have to have a whole conversation with them. If you truly just want a photo, just tell them how much you love them in their movie and ask to take a photo. That's all it has to be. It doesn't have to be some big elaborate conversation or experience that you have with them if that's not you. If you're super shy and a little awkward around them, totally understand that. Just just take a photo. That's all that you're there for. Now, if you've got a kiddo that's a little unsure or a little scared or not really comfortable with that, um, you can always opt to kind of do a distanced meet. You can opt for a wave or a high five instead of a hug if you want to. You can ask your kiddo if maybe they want to, if they're old enough, if they want to use your phone to take a picture of you with the character, or dad or mom or aunt or whoever's with you, any of the grown-ups with the character, so they can kind of interact in that way if they don't want to. You can also kind of let the character attendant know if you've got a kiddo that's a little bit nervous, and they can always help. The character attendants that are with the characters. They typically wear blue cast member shirts. They are amazing and so good to have your back in those situations. So definitely clue them in if you've got a kiddo that's a little bit unsure or nervous or you don't know how they're going to react. And again, like I said, don't panic when it comes to character meet and greets. Just a simple, "Can we take a photo? I love your outfit. I loved watching you do this or that." If it's Anna and Elsa, I went to your sing-along in Hollywood Studios, and I loved you there. Basic little one-line conversations are all that you need to do. It doesn't need to be elaborate, doesn't need to be this whole to-do when it comes to character meets. Now, if that is you, and you are someone that's super comfortable with characters, then maybe you do have a couple-minute conversation. I can remember when Stevie and I met Pooh and Tigger, uh, pre-pandemic in the UK pavilion inside of Christopher Robin's room. We had a whole conversation with them about how they were learning how to play chess. And yeah, Stevie exactly in the comments right now is saying that she complimented the curtains in Christopher Robin's room, and Tigger told her that he had picked them out. So there are lots of other ways that you can interact with the characters as well. And again, those cast members are so great about like translating the pantomiming. If you're not sure what they're saying, those cast members are going to step in and help their character communicate with you. So you definitely always have someone that is there to kind of help you through that situation if you need a little bit of assistance trying to figure out what it is that this conversation is trying to say. So a few other notes just about character meet and greets in general, and a couple things to keep in mind. Um, the characters that you see in like Galaxy's Edge don't stop to sign because it's supposed to be more of an immersive experience. So they are not going to be greeted as celebrity characters, if that kind of makes sense. Now, the characters that are Star Wars over in Launch Bay, they do sign over there, or they do the cards or whatever depending on the character that's over there. So keep in mind that different areas, you have to kind of be aware of the area that you're in and the world that you're in to kind of keep the magic alive and to stick with the storyline when it comes to those types of things. Um, PhotoPass cast members are always happy and willing to take photos with your phone as well as their camera. So depending on the situation, if you are doing characters, typically your character attendants that are in the blue, you can hand them your phone and ask them to take a photo. They're more than happy to. If you are at a spot where it's just a PhotoPass cast member, you can kind of see if they are able to. Sometimes it's hard with their equipment if they're able to kind of do that with your phone. But I've never had a cast member decline when I've requested for them to take my photo on my own personal device. So keep that in mind if you're someone who's like, I don't really want to do Memory Maker, but I really want a Main Street photo. go see one of the cast members that is on Main Street doing PhotoPass, and they'll help you out with that. Um, Another note as well, if you are someone who has a Disney Chase Visa credit card or debit card, they have special photo spots for those people as well. There is one in Epcot and there's one in Hollywood Studios. So both of those options. Now they do have limited hours. They're only there like maybe 10 to 6 or so. So keep that in mind. Look up those hours and see. But you typically get a special character, an exclusive character, or like more than one character at a time. So the Epcot one tends to be like Minnie and Pluto together, or Goofy and Pluto together, or something like that. At Hollywood Studios, it tends to be Darth Vader, but it does rotate from time to time as well. And then same thing for out in Disneyland. They also have the Chase Visa photo spots out there. They have one in Avengers Campus and then one in the Star Wars and Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland. So lots of options if that is something that you have. It is a really great perk of having one of those cards that you get those kind of extra photo spots there as well. So I think that's kind of my quick rundown of character meet and greets and kind of my quick guide to a few little tips to maybe help make it easier for you and your family and your kiddos when you are going on your trip. I hope that all of the information that I provided you in this episode for PhotoPass, Memory Maker, autographs, and character meet and greets will be helpful for you or for a friend on their next trip. Again, if you are looking for more information on character meals and things like that, I mentioned earlier that you can hop back to some of our previous episodes. And you can find all of our former episodes kind of in our archives on our YouTube channel. We are Mom Street USA on YouTube. And if you've got more questions or you want more information or you've got suggestions for future topics from a Mom Street podcast, you can always send us an email, momstreetusa@gmail.com. And you can find us on a lot of the social media places, right? TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. We are Mom Street USA on all of those as well. Um, and as always, feel free to send us a message or send us a chat or post in our channel on our good friend Kirk at Walrus Carp, his Walrus Carp Discord. We have a Mom Street channel over there. If you'd like to throw any information our way, we'd love to hear from you guys over there as well. So that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. Next week, we will go back to a hub episode and we will be back with our friends Duck and Jess for the next episode. And again, we are continuing this rotating schedule for Mom Street USA going forward. And eventually I'm going to have to stop saying that because it's just going to be the norm. But I do feel like for the next at least one or two more episodes, I do need to just kind of plug that in there to make sure you guys know that you will be getting kind of a rotation through some different voices. So we're excited again to hear what else they have to bring to us in these future hub episodes. But for now, I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of Mom Street USA, and I hope you all have a great week, and we will see you next time on our next show for Mom Street USA. Bye, everyone.